Good Ashen, fellow morning ones.
I see what you did there.
It wasn't until Lucio said, "I see what you did there," that I was finished processing what you did there.
Look, this is
earlier for him than it is for me.
this is really heady stuff, I know, but you know.
Head of the curve.
Are we looking good? I haven't actually checked.
I mean, I think if you can still hear me and I can see the stream, it says a little Dark Souls.
You cut out right as you were saying everything was okay.
Yeah.
Which is the most dark. This is the most Dark Soul shit I've ever heard of in my life.
Right.
There will come a time when you are happy and you think you are safe.
You will find yourself seated early in the morning before a microphone without really knowing why.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. There you are. Get out of here with your Dark Souls 2 references. Don't actually get out of here with us. Those are
those are great.
My Dark Souls 2 references are cosmically approved until and unless the tech drops my sound.
Yeah, true. That's a good point.
About it being cursed.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. We're listening for signs from the Almighty. For those of us, for those of you rather, who haven't watched the entire thing in sequence, in which case, shame. Adam, do you want to reintroduce yourself real quick? Because you have not been a steady participant, but you've been a key one in this series.
Yes, I've been sort of a bonus feature occasionally. I am a friend and acquaintance with a interest, if not an exhaustive knowledge of Dark Souls, and I think I am here mostly as a contrarian. Because I never finished Dark Souls 3. I expected to love it and get all the way through, everything in it like I did with the first two, but bounced off of it really hard. I gave it the old college try. I put about 30 hours into it, and just was not my thing. So I am mostly here to playfully play Captain Bringdown, I think.
The Adventures of Captain Bringdown. And we talked a bit last time you were on about why it might have been that you bounced off of it. But
and I was going to ask, something very specific. I don't think we asked is, but I'm just curious. Was there a specific instance where you put the controller down and just kind of went, I'm good? Or was it more like you just stopped playing one day and then you realized, I got invaded months since I played that game?
Oop, you're at the Church of Filianor, or are you?
I mean, if I die, it's fine. I'm just letting you know I'm invaded. So I don't actually know. Can you summon me or no, my time's gone. So I gotta play with this guy.
No, exactly. I was saying you summon me, and we'll this is content.
Content. But yes, I am at the Church of Filianor.
To answer your question, Lucio, though, it was more just putting it down and thinking maybe I'll come back to this, next time I feel like playing. And then I kind of just never felt like playing again. I left it installed for a long time, but every time I got the Souls itch, I just went and played Dark Souls 2.
Yeah.
And then I realized it was
my least favorite Dark Souls.
Yeah, you have not bounced off Dark Souls 2, but you have been struggling as our playthrough begins to sort of round the bases. Where in the Church of Filianor are you? Because I can't put my sign down near the bonfire. I mean, I can't put it down at the boss room, which isn't surprising. But,
no, you have to be like right in the bonfire. It's the only place you can get invaded.
Interesting. I'm standing there. But I'm standing there.
Oh.
Fair warning, it seems as though my dogs are rousing themselves in the living room, so... Maybe canine noise.
No worries. I provide the canine noise, but
it's very generous of you, honestly.
I mean,
you need to go ahead. I'm not.
Oh,
there.
Okay.
That's what was going on. Sorry, I wasn't even looking at your stream because I just was focused on that. But I'm dead now, so I can just put my sign down.
Welcome to the next life. Yeah, there's actually a couple of listeners who have asked for. It's like every so often a developer's dog will bark on the podcast. And I occasionally get requests for just a nice clean recording. Like, some people collect dev dogs, basically. Like Dan Teasdale, who made a Roundabout and 100-Foot Robot Golf, his dog Cassie, who is featured in at least one of those games. That's definitely a collectible dev dog. Collect them all. Gotta dog them all.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that we could make a real bank on a collectible card game.
Yeah, right. So can I summon you before I open the door, or do we need to meet Philionor before we meet each other?
Yes.
That was an or, but I'll just go ahead and open the door then. When you said the bonfire, you meant this next bonfire.
Yeah, and if you remember what happens next, I think there's actually 2 instances. I don't know that if I put my sign down before you enter, like it would be the same
Yeah,
area.
I gotcha. So before I touch the embraced shell, like you do, who are we looking at?
I mean, we are looking at one of the reasons that Adam doesn't like this game. So this is Philionor. For all intents and purposes, Gwen's 5th child.
Oh, geez, is there enough information that you can keep count?
6th. So okay, so definitively Guinevere and Gwendolyn,
Mm-hmm.
and then presumably the Nameless King, and presumably Priscilla.
Priscilla, I think, is confirmed in the first game.
I couldn't remember how cut and dry that was, and then presumably Yorshka, and now Philionor. So I guess the 6th, if we're keeping track that way.
Gotcha. I see. I thought we had enough information that we even knew who was like what the order was. Which
So, I know the name Yorshka, but I had no association of that name with Gwen. Can you tease this out for me? Because
So Yorshka we met in this playthrough. She sits at top of a tower in Anne Orlando.
Right.
She's the captain of the Blue Moons by the time Dark Souls 3 comes around. Because there is no captain anymore. Gwendolyn is dead, and she just kind of sits ever present up there.
she's a little bit of like
she's also a half breed. She's very reminiscent of Priscilla.
Yeah, she's like Priscilla cross Gwendolyn.
This game had 2. Oh wait! No, there are more Gwen clan folks. You just didn't know about them before, but they were here the whole time. I promise.
They were standing over there. I mean, I guess the reason I got surprised about the definitive number wasn't so much that I was like, no, there are only 3 canon Gwenkin. It was more like I assumed the number of children Gwen had was innumerable. You know, like I figured that was one of his Zeus-like aspects.
I mean, I'm talking about the ones we've met.
Sure,
I'm
totally.
About, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Philionor's embracing a shell. I too will embrace the shell, or I will touch the shell she's embracing.
Yeah.
And in my quest to be very fair to things in this game, the sequence that triggers when you touch the shell is really cool.
Yeah, this is great imagery.
Visually, it's real neat.
It's also, I guess, there's a Vati video where he compares it to an old anime whose name I cannot remember, but it is about a little girl who has, or in part is about a little girl who has an egg that she walks around with. And I'd have to rewatch that video, but because I don't remember specifically what the anime was about. But that a lot of this imagery is inspired by that.
Interesting. I know that these games are chock full of references to certain manga and anime that I'm not super familiar with. For most prominently, Berserk.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think it's 80% Berserk.
Yeah.
Which is not a critique. I don't mean that as a.
Oh no! It didn't read like a read. It was just yeah. He, in fact, I mean, like the big old fuck off Buster swords and stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
My family and I have been working our way through the Ghibli films. And there's one thing to be said is that there's a lot of internal inspiration like that bounces back and forth in terms of like the way Ghibli inspired Legend of Zelda, and the way these games are inspired by like certain elements of Berserk and other things.
Real quick, welcome to the desert of the real.
That's right.
Now, am I right about that? Like, so here's one of the. We'll come back to the bouncy reference thing because I think that is kind of interesting and important. But I do want to ask. We were saying one of the things we talked about last time, Adam, since you weren't here, was how much of this is all one timeline, and we're just seeing like, okay, there was this other society off to the side where the pygmies' direct descendants chilled, and Gwen became God with a capital G and all that, and how much of this is like alternate timelines, right? So like, did we just travel to the future, or did we just travel to a different version, or is the answer yes? And like, what visual cues should I be picking up
So
for, you know?
my best read is that it's actually that the future traveled to us. This is so, one of the things Dark Souls 3 is about, it, as we've reiterated so many times, is cycles and um, you know um, themes and metaphor kind of repeating itself through history. And I think in this instance, um, this is basically the cycle breaking. It comes back to the whole attitude about Gwyn and his fear of the dark, and
Mm,
to take that to its logical conclusion, his fear of the end of the world. So not only did he have the killing of the first flame, which was repeatedly stoked, or sorry, uh, what is it called?
Kindled.
Ignited, kindled. Thank you. Um, he also had the ringed city guarding Filianor, and her something about that egg and her power was holding back basically the end of the world. Like, as convoluted as time is, it seems like the curse of humanity and Halloween and such affected things in such a way that like it built up over time. Kind of like if you think about any movie you've seen where someone suddenly loses their ability to control their immortality and they just age rapidly to the end of
yeah,
their
yeah,
life.
yeah.
That's
We're,
sort of my read on this. Whatever a power Filianor had and the reason she was asleep and protecting that egg, it was what was holding back the end of the world. So now all of these cycles, all of these things, like this is just the desolate end of the world where like there is nothing left.
I buy it,
So
and yeah. So yeah,
my
go for it,
read
Adam.
on that was that this was what was there, and Filianor's dream is what we disrupted. It was this, wouldn't it be nice if that
Oh yeah, yeah. So
magically we were in.
young Filianor is the illusion of Guinevere from the first game, or like the equivalent
Yeah,
thereof.
that felt like a very direct reference to me.
Yeah, that would be
When I
another one.
saw
Yeah.
it. And so I like, I guess, kind of the bleaker take of no, this, we were just shutting your eyes to what was inevitable, this total decay.
Yeah, and those two reads, what I like is they work together, right? Like for whatever ways that maybe this particular game slips, what even counts as real or what that means or whatever. This is like this is if we're talking about the Zelda timeline, this is Breath of the Wild. Like, right? Like, which of the things have happened by the time we're here? Yes, all of them,
Oh.
right?
So
Whatever.
this guy. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but like, I mean, because the image, like, there's all this image of ash, and we're ashen ones and all that. I mean, this is my interpretation of what we're looking at. Is this is a desert of ash, right? This is just like we have made a new ecosystem out of how many times we've repeated this cycle, and it's a desolate one. So yeah, let's talk about this guy.
Or talk to him, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, this is very much what if at the end of any given Legend of Zelda game, Link turned to the camera and went, "And that's the Legend of Zelda." Roll credits.
I mean, he did literally say, "Come to eat our Dark Souls." That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the dumbest thing. I hate this so much. Like,
The real Dark Souls was the friends we made along the way. So I can't talk to him. I mean, he already said some stuff, but I can't like engage him in conversation.
Oh, okay. Then we're done with him.
He's just making
exactly. We're done with him.
He's
He
making
just came here to say the title of the game.
he's making pilgrimage. Yeah. There was I can't remember whose tweet it was that like, the Oscars have new rules now for qualifying for Best Picture, and one of them is at some point someone must say the title of the film.
Right. At the end of Parasite,
Yeah, exactly.
he turns to the camera and goes, "Who was the real parasite, I ask you?" And then roll credits.
Again, I can't remember who said it, but someone was like, I liked Parasite, but it would have been cool if at the end the parasite turned to the camera and explained that he likes communism, and specifically the kind of communism I like.
Right.
So it's funny because you were saying you're the naysayer, but I feel like I'm the naysayer because to me, I don't know, that is satisfying. To, I guess, my stupid monkey brain, because we've reached the end of the series, and I mean, it's what I like about it is I guess I read this in more of a meta way. Like Miyazaki worked on Bloodborne, and he had Sekiro in the back of his head somewhere, and now he's working on Elden Ring. Like, to me, he just wanted to kind of leave this world behind. So to me, it's not that he's like looking at the camera and saying like, you know, in this very, however you want to say it, way, like, you know, this is Dark Souls. It's more like he's saying, you know, this is the last thing I can offer you, and then we're done.
And that's fine. I think something that I realized, you know, in the course of like even not being on these, but watching them while you guys were doing it, is that I wanted this game to be about something other than itself. You know, and it's not interested in that, you know, and that's fine. It can be about something that I'm not particularly jazzed about, but I went into it sure that I wouldn't be getting BioShock Infinite. And then,
You went there. I mean, BioShock Infinite is truly the game, because BioShock Infinite starts. BioShock Infinite starts out. I mean, they do it again. Hand over that thing, your Dark Soul. Parasite. BioShock Infinite very much starts out being about real shit. It's about like, you know, like a specific old timey racism and American exceptionalism and all this stuff, and then it literally goes like the record gets scratched, and it's just a meta goof about BioShock games. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's a switcheroo in this one, so that's one difference.
And I think that this game has more to recommend it than BioShock Infinite, for sure. Like, you know.
But in that aspect, sure.
This DLC, actually the DLCs in particular, and to a certain degree the last boss.
Oh, he stabbed me.
Game, you know, are frustrating to me. For you know, reasons that I think parallel some of my frustration. The frustrations that don't have to do with racist bullshit,
sure,
you know, about BioShock Infinite, but
the more structural stuff.
Yeah, the comparison of quality is certainly unfair.
No, certainly. Well, and also Dark Souls 3 never goes, well, if we kill the gods, doesn't that make us as bad as the gods?
Right, exactly. But the thing where I thought it was going to be about something and then it was just about itself, the fact that doesn't work for me is me. But, you know,
sure,
it was disappointing for me nonetheless. Because, I mean, Dark Souls 2, part of the reason I like it so much is that it's kind of about, like, you know, dementia and the frailty of, you know, like, the human personality. Like, what makes you you is actually a thin layer on top
super
of
contingent, yeah.
Like, you know, that was really resonant to me. You know, and I wasn't super interested in like what else did Gwen do off screen that we didn't know about. Like, no, I fought Gwen in this nice tragic fight, and then I was glad in Dark Souls 2 to move on to kind of what happened afterward. And then I thought, you know, the basic premise of this one was really neat. Like, oh, there's like a system here. This game is going to be about futility, and kind of it is, but it's about the futility of pleasing an audience.
I mean, kind of, yeah. Especially if you a parallel between this fight and the have we actually fought the oops? Have we actually fought the what is the oops? Okay, that went pretty pear-shaped pretty quickly. Okay, let's try that again. We haven't actually fought the final boss of the main game, right?
The Soul of Cinder.
The Soul
of Cinder, thank you, because we didn't want to end the cycle, right? So maybe we do that after this. But paralleling that to this, like there, the gag is that the boss is you, right? Like it's this kind of collection of different common Dark Souls playstyles. Here, the boss isn't you, like the level is you, right? Like this is you. You've been pulverized into shifting sands. There is like I guess that's what's interesting to me, right? Because on the one hand, it is extremely indulgent and fan servicey in a way that, you know, that doesn't bother me, but I can totally understand why it would bother you or someone. But on the other hand, it's like weirdly hostile to the idea of people wanting more Dark Souls. Yeah, it's both, and I can see both being off-putting, you know.
Well, and to say something nice,
real quick, just pragmatic thing.
Yeah.
Do you care about your souls at this point, since this is
we're
sort of approaching the end of the game?
Not really. What's up?
I was just saying, because he runs towards us, so if you care about your souls, we need to go past him to the Colosseum.
I'm not going to sweat it too much.
All right. Because I was going to say, it's just easy, because we end up there if we beat his first phase anyway. But if we don't, then you just lose those souls.
Right.
But he will always run towards us now. So
Gotcha. So he's, I mean, and, you know, just visually, now he's the pilgrim, right? Instead of the pathetic crawling guy we get. We get I don't even know what to call him. Outrider Knight 4.0. Yeah.
I was gonna say Outrider Knight Astorius.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's yeah, I buy that. Continuing the theme of smash ups.
The nice thing I was going to say is that this desolate, ash desert with ruins scattered about it does address that visual complaint I had the first time I joined you guys. This is very good visual design to me. It has the clutter to make it feel broken down, right? It's there to a purpose, all of the rocks strewn around and everything. But it has the sort of clean enough, ironically given that everything's covered in ash, designed to read forcefully rather than presenting visual static. I think it works really well.
If we're doing Zelda parallels, this is the Wind Waker, right? We're seeing the peaks of mountains were or islands are what were before the peaks of mountains, and we can see stuff peeking up, and it sort of tempts you to figure out if you can figure out which cathedral or which part of which cathedral you're looking at, and you kind of can't, and it's but also just like the shape grammar, is that a stupid term? Like the
composition, I think is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, sure. I don't know why. Thank you.
You're the art historian.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean composition is totally the word. But I guess I meant specifically the related shapes, like the Alfred Stieglitz shit about where it's jaggy and where it's smooth and all that stuff.
The kind of contrast.
Yeah. That stuff is very well handled here. Ooh.
So I was trying to think of how to frame this question. I think I thought about it. So something I don't think we've talked about here, but we've talked about in other areas of our
lives.
Lives. I was gonna say I think I'm trying to think if we put it down to record, but I don't know that we have. Is there's this, especially I would say on YouTube, essay videos. There's this propensity now to kind of equivocate. Well, I'll let this guy talk for a second. As he will.
I'm gonna let you finish, he says.
Oh, see, now if you wanted to troll openly, just making a thinly veiled Kanye West caricature the final boss of the Dark Souls trilogy would be a real no one is happy.
You don't have to fight. You don't have to fight him if you bring him his croissants.
There you go.
So now he's Super Saiyan Gale. He has realized the legend.
Super Saiyan Gale. He only spent 5 minutes powering up.
That's true. The point is that wasn't even his final form.
Right.
As is the case with all Dark Souls bosses.
So again, this is great.
Anyway.
Right. Visual language wise, this is really cool. Because number one, he's it's neat, and he has his cape, his wings, and all that. But more than that, he has the hump on his back, like he's one of the pilgrims. And he was in the position of the pathetic guy making a pilgrimage to Filianor. So that's in the language the game's been describing of what the aspirations of this society are. It makes sense as an ultimate expression. Now, I will cop to the fact that the first time I played this, I had absolutely no idea why we were fighting Gale as the final boss. And I will furthermore cop to still sort of not getting it. Yeah. I get why a slave knight makes some kind of sense, right? This is you. This is does a man chooses, a slave obeys. Not to make it all BioShock. But why are we fighting Gale?
Okay, so I was asking a question.
Or you totally were. Sorry. So go back to your question. We can queue these up.
No, well, I guess we will be fighting Gale for a while. So my question was, so there's this propensity to equivocate diegetics with metaphor. You see these videos ending explained, and a lot of those videos don't explain what the thing was thematically about. It just tells you what happened.
Right.
So I'm wondering, is that sort of
oh boy,
is that sort of that attitude towards approaching narrative and such, is that one of the reasons to you, Adam, and it sounds like to you, Drew, you agree to a point that this game, the con, as it were, would be that if it's about itself, that's much less interesting to you because you're not interested in the game itself?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one way of putting it. I guess, like the reason Dark Souls was interesting to me in the first place was because of the metaphor. Like I remember when I was explaining, back when, I mean, like this is not a flex. Like I liked it before it was cool. I liked it around the time it became cool, I guess. Before it was out on PC, I played it on the Xbox 360. I rented a disc, WoW, and I bounced off real hard around like lower Undeadburg, but came back eventually. Whatever. When I was explaining it to people, like my opener wasn't. Well, there's this guy named Gwyn, and he's like Zeus, and he has all these children, and there's this thing called the Dark Soul, and there's a furtive pygmy. My opener was like, it takes place in a universe where, as far as we know, there's a finite amount of light and heat left. And it's like the very end of the world, and you're a hero, but it's sort of a game about like whether there's a point where it's too late to be a hero. Like my pitch was thematic, So, and I don't think there is a single. Oh boy, I'm helpless without you. I'm also trying to walk and chew gum, which we're still. This was I'm going to let you in on a secret, dear viewer. This was us trying to see if we could do that with our old brains. But yeah, and I think we're mostly successful as long as you're not here for skilled play, which you're not. Does that make sense though? Right? Like so, the game, like I can't think of a single thing in any medium that for me personally is just about the thing itself. Like it's always about like,
I'm not to be clear, I'm not trying to make that argument. It's just it's more like that's what you pick up on first, right? Is like, I mean, because we have arguments with a friend of ours who I don't know that he really believes this fully, but he tends to I guess for the sake of playing devil's advocate or whatever, sometimes pick up the position that like maybe a thing is just a thing, and that like there's not always inherent meaning. And,
yeah, we have
I think it's safe to assume that all of us here don't actually think that's true. That like, even if you don't intend for something to have meaning, there's always going to be, coded theme, metaphor, whatever. Like you can't really escape it.
The way you see the world ends up in the thing that you
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I think my argument is always that themes are a native feature of stories, and he does not agree with that.
Right. And so like, kind of like how you were talking about, this is almost aggressively a way of saying like no more Dark Souls. Like, thematically the game looks at, cycles, and if you want to look at that as like a metaphor for, the game development cycle, it's like, Miyazaki, I think to your point, is saying like he's done with this world. Like he enjoyed it. He wanted to maybe eke out the last bits of creativity he could for what he had in mind, especially because he didn't, he wasn't on the Dark Souls 2 team. And I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that he didn't like the final product, but I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that that's not necessarily what he would have come up with.
It's also, I mean, like it was a troubled production in general. They changed direction partway through. It's honestly, it's one of those games where it's a miracle it came out at all, much less that it was quite good.
Yeah, and so I think so I mean, there's a lot of stuff here to me, like when we're playing and we're looking at Gwyn and we're thinking about well, what is the Dark Soul, and maybe he's answering those questions, and that's in an unsatisfying way. If you were happy with, to Adam's point, you fight Gwyn and then you burn, and then that's kind of the end of that story. But I also think there's a lot here to, oh God, that reach. There's a lot here to expound from, what this game I think meant to him personally. But again, like, if that's not what you're going to lead with, that means that's not necessarily what was at the forefront for you. And so that's, I guess, getting back to my question about, like diegetics versus metaphor. It's like one of those two things can come through stronger in a game, right? Like if I went back and played, I guess to use Adam's example, BioShock Infinite again, I could get, I don't want to. I hope I never have to.
Cursed every stream I'm on. Exactly this way.
but if I did, I'm sure I could come up with some kind of take about, what, the creators were trying to do, or what they thought they meant and what it actually meant. But to your point, like if I think about that game, all I can think about is the things that happened, and it may just be a matter of how it hits you and the the tonal thing, because like, and again, just to remind everyone about my personal entry into the series, into the not the specific series, but just the Souls like games specifically this was my first entry, so like. I had a really weird relationship with the games where everything here meant a lot to me because it was sort of my foray into the universe, and it's like I got to then have Dark Souls 1 be the sort of weird like denouement to this whole thing, like you know, like the end is in the beginning, as it were.
Well, I envy you because honestly, the end of Dark Souls 1 is a better ending to the series. You know,
yeah, and that's
like,
what I was gonna say, and it's kind of beautiful in a way, like, you know, like it's.
Well, it turns
it's almost like that Memento thing where like the middle of what happens in the middle of the story is actually the real, more satisfying conclusion. Like,
well,
because and so I mean, and so to have that unique perspective does inform my bias a little bit, and it's why like I stand outside of your guys' view where it's like all of this stuff. You guys are like, well, we've been here already, and for me, it was like this was the end of this story, and then I got to see kind of where it went by seeing how it started.
No, totally. It's a 100-hour prologue. It's almost, this is the abilities, and then you build yourself back up.
The interesting thing to me is that from the way you described it, it sounds like what it did is it turned the series into Dark Souls 1 writ large, where you come into something seeing what it is at the end, and then you try to piece together archaeologically what
back up. You see that explode?
What it used to be and how it got here. And that seems much more enjoyable to me than having like this, you know, idea, you know, from Dark Souls 1 and, you know, in a somewhat different, more fragmentary milieu, Dark Souls 2, where you sort of like, you know, piece together a cast of characters and what's happening and how it's all related and what the stakes are, and then to end up in a world where the stakes for the world don't matter as much because it's not about the world anymore. It's about, you know, in your read, at least the characters and the themes and their relationship to the creator, right? And like, it's not that I don't think that has meaning or value, but it is definitely trying to go down a stair and discovering that it's floor for me, you know, to come from here are 2 stories about the worlds, and then to come to one where the world kind of aggressively doesn't cohere. You know, like, that's not to say there's not story there. I think there's, you know, some cool stuff, you know, like I've tried to point out when it's come up here, but like, especially ending here, you know, and with the Soul of Cinder, and having all of the stuff that the game is truly interested in putting in front of you be metatextual to the point of not really having a basis, you know, in how we understood this world to work coming into it. You know, it is, I think Drew said, kind of hostile. It feels, you know, like, you know, again, like, I'm, you know, not welcome to enjoy this game in the way that I enjoyed the previous 2, and if that's a problem, I know where the door is, you know, and that's ultimately what happened, is that, you know, the play was not, you know, compelling enough to me anymore.
Oh no!
I got. We were close-ish.
I don't know. I am still a little behind, so.
Yeah, well, let me foretell a disaster for you.
Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah. Still, you guys did really well on that one. It's almost dead. But,
We got this.
But yeah, you know, for me, the play getting more character action oriented was definitely, you know, a step away from what was going to engage me mechanically and maybe keep me here. And then, you know, the story having seemingly having decided to become about itself instead of about, you know, either diegetically, you know, a world that matters to the characters in it, or thematically, you know, about something other than, you know, this series and concluding it. It just didn't resonate with me. Again, I'm not trying to say you can't make a story like that. You can't make a game like that. I think partially just, I don't know how good I think AAA games are at being personal and reflective in that way. Like,
well,
an
indie
game, a smaller production where, you know, you can identify the fingerprints on any given part of it, but
we keep talking about Hidetaka Miyazaki as though he made the game by himself, and I fall into that pattern too. I'm not criticizing either of you or us writ large for doing it, but it is important to note that, like, yeah, AAA games are massive productions, and when a voice comes through it all, that's kind of remarkable, you know. So I mean, like, how fair is it to say that the things that are weird or different about this game are Miyazaki feeling different about the series, how much of it is the team's fatigue, how much of it is emergent. It's hard to tell, right? And like, I'm not saying it's complicated, therefore let's not try. Like, you can like look at art books and read interviews.
That's what
and all
we're
that
doing
stuff.
right now. Is we're
yeah,
trying.
no, exactly.
And I love that we have me and Adam on the same or I should say on different ends of the table, but at the same table, and you somewhere in the middle, because this is what gets into it, right? It's like, this is why it's great to have differing opinions, because then you can start to really like maybe see the structures a little bit more. Because if we had too much on either way, then you lose something.
That's why I'm always really interested to hear your perspective, Lucio, and not just going sort of Benjamin Buttoning your way through the series from 3 to 1. But also because I think at an intuitive level, like I could tell you that somebody whose surname was Miyazaki, was the sort of creative lead on these games, but I didn't know it or anything about him or his ideas playing through these games, other than that people were complaining that he wasn't involved in Dark Souls 2, which didn't mean a lot to me because I liked Dark Souls 2, and it's not an intuitive way that I approach interpreting these games.
It's funny because on the flip side, I have bounced off Dark Souls 2 very hard at different times, and even so, it's still probably my least favorite entry into all of these games. But I was gonna say the flip side is I never once thought to myself that the problem was that Miyazaki wasn't involved. It was just, it existed on its own, right? Because it is in fact the end product of a lot of different hands and a lot of different people. But it was never like, this is obviously bad because Miyazaki was involved. It's more like, it doesn't click with me because there's just other things going on with it.
Yeah.
Well, even if we think of this whole series as I think there's something correct about thinking of Hidetaka Miyazaki as the steward of the whole series, or thinking of it as his vision in some way. But how involved he is and in what way does change throughout the series. So around the time Dark Souls 3 was coming out, he became like the president of From Software. So he was starting like those kind of executive duties at the same time that they were making Dark Souls 3, the core game, and at the same time that they were making the Old Hunters DLC for Bloodborne. So this is a point where dude is wearing a lot of hats.
And just as a quick aside, this is the same thing. I think I don't know if it's particularly endemic to American culture, where we are so focused on like the individual and all of that stuff. But we do the same thing in film. Like, we often talk about the director, and then the writer is the person who gets often forgotten, but the person who gets, I would argue, even more forgotten would be like the cinematographer. Very few people talk about the cinematographer.
The editor, baby.
And the editor, I was going to say, have a lot more to do with why the film ends up looking great. Not than the director, but the director's just there to help, to shake his finger and, and try to get his vision through. But it's so many, other, and I'm not denigrating really good directors. I'm just saying, but in the end, it's a big production. It's a lot of hands.
We've talked before about the
singular voice. I think, it's something we fall back on, but it's just, that's not the case really at all.
With cinema, we've talked about the example, which is that George Lucas divorced his wife, who was his editor, and then he made some interesting cinema, but he never made a good movie again.
How long was she his editor?
It's a good question. Certainly throughout the original trilogy and American Graffiti and THX.
Okay. Yeah, and the trilogy is after.
But he also didn't direct the whole trilogy, right? But
right. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, right? Like the hardcore, non-ironic, prequel thumpers, I guess. They really contend it's all George, but yeah, he was responsible for ideas, but had very little to do with what made Empire. And people are kind of on the fence still, I guess, with Jedi. But what made those films memorable, let's say, if not great.
It's the classic narrative, which is simplified but not inaccurate, I think, is that he had the least to do with Empire, and most of the stuff that's goofy or pulpy about Jedi was him re-exerting control a little bit, right. The Ewoks and all that kind of stuff, and the number of times the words failure and complete and and all that gets said in that last scene, which is absurd, and I love it.
Sorry, just as a quick aside, I feel like Adam might know this, but it's one of my favorites. My dear friend, an occasional purveyor of our products here at ETAL, Ian, told me a story, I guess, about Lucas when he was making the first Star Wars film, and someone interviewed him, and then this kind of gets to what we're talking about a little bit about
Yeah,
authorial intent, diegetics and stuff. And asked him like, well, what is the film about? And he explained, what happens in the movie. And she said, well, no, but like, what is the movie about? And he reiterated, and she said, okay, let me try a different question. She said, what was going on in your life when you wrote this film? And he talked about how, he said, oh, well, I was really wanting to be a filmmaker, but my father was really wanted me to inherit his hardware store. And she says, oh, so the series is basically about not wanting to become your father. And George Lucas said, no.
So I'm gonna do the thing that arguably I am saying was unengaging to me about Dark Souls, and make this momentarily about me, which is to say that my training, I was very much in medieval literature, which
Ooh.
Back up.
That wasn't to medieval literature. That was to Gale. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
Wait.
I have not encountered very many strong feelings about medieval literature among those who do not study it. But
oh boy, this could go poorly for
Oh
me.
boy.
Yep.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
The thing about medieval literature is that even when things that you study aren't unknown or anonymous, there's a limit to what you can know about its creation and about the mind that created it. Or
Sure, yeah.
in a lot of cases.
Real quick,
And
just as a
so-
suggestion, when you get your one-man show going, Adam, I suggest the thing about medieval literature as your working title.
I will file that away because it's pretty good. But I have been long accustomed, I suppose, to not thinking about authorial intent or personality, or there's that's in literary criticism and in film criticism as well, to a certain degree, right? Death of the author kind of thing is maybe controversial depending on who you talk to, but it's kind of a necessity in the
Sure.
professional training that I had for maybe like 2006 to 2016, so about a decade. That I spent studying texts and talking about them without really being able to talk very much about like what somebody meant to say or what they intended to say, or even like what kind of perspective they might have been coming from. There's just a very limited amount you can know about it, and so I don't think I think to interpret things that way unless they sort of signal to me that needs to be the case. And I think that by the time I was starting to receive signals from Dark Souls that it wasn't Dark Souls 3, that it wasn't really about the things that I was expecting it to be about, that was doomed to be frustrating to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, to complete the aside, yeah, I mean, like, part of the point of Death of the Author is that the notion of the auteur, or the lone artist, is actually an idea of relatively recent vintage. I mean, it really goes back to the Renaissance. There's hints of it. I mean, from speaking as an art history kid, my medieval example would be Autun Cathedral, which is engraved with the words "Gislibertus made this" on the frieze, which was the whole point is I know that because it was unusual, right?
Right.
Yeah. But the idea of I always find it a little funny when people get into weird conspiracy theories about Shakespearean authorship. Because a lot of them are really silly and a lot of them are really classist, and some of them are just fun to think about, like the idea that Queen Elizabeth was in on it and she was like putting on men's clothes and sneaking away and like meeting with Christopher Marlowe and whatever. Like it's fun to imagine, but at the same time, the idea that a dude named William Shakespeare wrote every word and every stage direction in every play, I think is a pretty alien idea to the way plays were written and performed at the time.
Yeah, most of his plays were stories that already existed, and sometimes in play form.
Exactly.
To be fair, Shakespeare stories were stories that already existed.
Yeah, exactly. No, when it's like the first folio is cobbled together from a bunch of what were called the foul papers. Sometimes I think some of them were fair copies. But basically, he would scribble stuff down, and actors would just get their parts. Yeah, exactly. The actors just got their parts. So afterwards, years later, in some cases, they kind of pieced together what the plays were.
After he had died, right? As I recall,
the first folio, yes, it was.
I want to say it was like it's. I feel like it's similar. I mean, not and I mean this with all metaphorical intent. I feel like it's kind of like the Bible, where it's like it took like 20 or 30 years after the death of Shakespeare before those people were like, hey, we
For
should
sure.
compile the different parts. And I want to say
it was a project of a few
and this is
people.
really nothing more than me just like kind of wanting to satisfy my own curiosity. The second folio was considered the more complete one, right? Or like
spicy take, buddy.
No, I'm asking because you would know better than I. I'm saying like, isn't that what a lot of like the individual plays now that are published are based on? Is like the second folio printings?
It depends on what you want from your text. Is I think where you place them. If you want something that is a unitary and polish play to perform, the first folio has some problems. But what was really interesting is that until you get to a certain level of study, people will note that the first folio was like put together after the fact from all of these kind of disparate sources, sometimes including just actors' memories of their lines.
Oh wow!
I had to memorize this. I don't know. I'm not enough of an expert on Shakespeare stuff to know like how common that was or how much of that went on. Or if this is like, it was just these two passages in Hamlet or whatever. But that makes it perhaps more valuable as a sort of, I don't know, philological, kind of project almost. But the other thing is that it was the project of Ben Jonson and a few other people, right? Like there were, minds and perspectives behind even that, that made executive decisions, not unlike the Bible, about what was authoritative and what was not, and what we could consider useful.
Yeah.
And we'll never know what all those decisions were.
And if you've made theater, well, I was going to say if you've made theater, oh my God, you're familiar with this like inevitably collaborative process. But I guess maybe that's not true, because if you're just in the same 6 musicals that get done every year, maybe you do think of this stuff as like fixed and unchanging on some level. But especially with a new play, that's not how it works at all, right? Like obviously once the actors are up there, they can say they can do whatever. You can fire them, but you can't stop them from doing it on the night. And obviously the director has a ton of latitude, right? So I think the idea of single authorship, becomes ridiculous in certain art forms, but is, to your point, Adam, about like medieval literature, is always at least questionable. Or not even single authorship, like the idea that you can incorporate the author's biography into your understanding of the work, right? Like that's not a native feature, especially of ancient stories, certainly. Like we don't even know. I've been talking a fair bit about the Maria Devana Headley translation of Beowulf because I've been enjoying it a lot. I mean, it is, bro, yeah. There isn't an author we can pin Beowulf down to.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's isn't it Ernest Beowulf? About himself.
He was writing about his son. Yeah.
Bernard Wolfhard. Beowulf was his OC, you see.
Oh, right, of course. Self-insert.
Oh, Lord.
No, come on now. You're a medievalist. You know that the Divine Comedy is the world's earliest work of self-insert fan fiction.
I wonder, though.
You're right. There are probably earlier ones, yeah. Ooh.
Certainly, I think the Divine Comedy is the most explicit surviving example,
right?
In the timeline.
Dante, you are so cool. You are so much cooler than me, Socrates.
Right.
We should hang out. It's a shame that I'm a dirty heathen and you are a good, faithful man, Dante.
Dante Alighieri, just in case anyone's confused.
Your hair is like beautiful corn silk, and you smell like a dream.
Actually, that's an interesting point, because I think corn silk wouldn't have been able to be a point of reference.
Oh, that is a good point. See, this is why we this is why we need a dramaturg here on the stream, making sure my references.
Can I be the world's
fact
first
checks, man.
Streaming dramaturg?
I'm down.
And so the medieval literature comparison is one that I made because it informs my perspective and the things that I look for and don't look for and intuit and don't intuit, in a text like this. And obviously this is very different, right? Like, anything of this scale and with this much, kind of prominence to it is definitely going to have its, process and its people involved, documented, and there's research that you're going to be able to do. But the games themselves actually traffic, at least up to a point, in most, especially in the first game, in the kind of, sort of lore archaeology that you have to do when you're looking at, creative products that there is a limited amount of information about.
Right.
You know,
And I will say, to really bring it all together and incorporate Miyazaki's biography into that reading that somewhat rejects biography. I mean, like he's talked a lot about how he loved choose your own adventure books based on Western fantasy when he was a kid, and his English wasn't very good. So one of the experiences he wanted to recreate in the early games was the idea of reading a fantasy story you didn't quite understand.
right.
Like you were getting the broad strokes, you were getting the tone, but the details were eluding you.
Yeah, and Dark Souls 1 does that with aplomb, and it trained me very well to interpret these stories that way. And
Yeah.
the fact that Dark Souls 2 told a different kind of story with the same basic tools was cool and novel because I had played Dark Souls 1 and now I had something else, that was sort of iterative, on it. And I got less of that feeling from Dark Souls 3, even though it spends probably more overall time kind of trying to tell you things about the world that it inhabits. The available connections and the thematic cohesion did not, were not apparent to me, if indeed they are there.
So, I mean, having just replayed it, and I say that in the past tense with a lot of optimism, like we're going to kill Gale in the next 5 hours. But having just replayed this, I think the thing I missed the most from the other games is uncertainty, or disagreement. I mean, Luce, if you've played, this one better than I do. That's part of why we're doing this. So if you feel like I'm just missing stuff, say so. But like, the fact that you hear about Artorias, and then what you've heard is wrong, or the fact that different characters have different theories about why the curse is happening, or in Dark Souls 2, the fact that there are a bunch of characters who remember whole ass kingdoms that no one else remembers. There's this notion of like subjectivity. That, I mean, Bloodborne, for God's sake, the two factions of, like, how do we feel about the Vile Bloods, all that kind of stuff. I feel like there's less of that in this one. I feel like there are truths to discover a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that this game is much more explicit, which is why I've been asking the questions I've been asking, because coming at it from the way you guys have, especially with the first game as your sort of primer.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense to me that there would be that level of disconnect, because this game is very explicit, even as it sort of I guess for lack of a better word, kind of like feigns that same level of uncertainty, like kind of like how we were talking about the Nameless King. There's a lot in this game you could argue is like, well, there's no definitive answer, so you're welcome to read into it, but there's a lot more at play to suggest that there is a more definitive answer than not, right? Like,
well, he's there as an answer, not as a question.
Even to use like this is just literally me pulling something out of my butt, but like let's say like we fought the Nameless King, and then like there was just another enemy called the Forgotten Prince or something like that. Like
sure.
To inject some level of like uncertainty, like, oh, okay, there's different places to go in Dark Souls 3. Who knows which of these could be Gwyn's lost son, maybe neither of them, but yeah, I think this game takes steps to be a lot less definitive, and so I don't think it's incorrect to say that that same level of uncertainty is not here. And I mean, at this point,
the fans didn't want uncertainty, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know to what degree Miyazaki had direct, and his team. We should, I guess, make that. I don't know to what extent the Dark Souls 3 team had access to what the fans wanted, and like how much that informed their decision making. But yeah, it does seem to be like, if there's any sort of singular, like theme or idea coming through, like Adam was talking about the lack of a really good thesis in this game. I would say to me it comes through as like, cycles do repeat except when they end, and they end definitively.
Sure.
And so I think, yeah, that definitiveness is what sort of also bleeds into the rest of the game. It's like, he wants to sort of he wanted to make at this point in time, he wants to make Sekiro. Maybe Elden Ring is, in the
In the hopper.
beginning stages of its, like, hey, what about this thing?
And he is project managing Bloodborne DLC at the same time, also, right? Like and he's the president of a company now, so it makes perfect sense to want to close the book on Dark Souls.
Yeah, and so like and he's caught up in his own set of cycles, and so maybe this is him exercising like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if cycles did actually end and things could be a little more definitive instead of, like, to your point, he's managing 4 different things, and yeah, so that's my long-winded way of saying, no, I think you're right that these games are much more explicit, that same level of uncertainty is sort of artificial in this game.
Yeah. Well,
diegetically, and that if you take the time to read, like, all of the item descriptions, there actually is a lot of information you have to work with, and so it's doesn't leave as much room open to, like, well, what about this or what about that?
Diegetically, you're closing the loop, and then metatextually, you're not leaving as many dangling threads as the audience is accustomed to. So you're not gonna get a million requests to hear more about that guy or whatever. Yeah.
Well, and for my money too, there's something you said really kicked this on in my head is that there is a lot of information in this game. It's got a lot of moving parts, and yet I feel like I know less for sure about what's going on in this game.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think where that comes from for me is that Dark Souls 2, perhaps even to a frustrating degree, leaned on, but no one really knows. As a writing device, like, who can be sure?
Oh boy!
And this game,
I'm coming.
What it actually tells you is generally pretty definitive. This is this. But then those things don't always connect in ways that allow you to flesh things out, right? Like, my example here is the Lothric Civil War and the Queen and the Angels. Like, taken as an aggregate, yeah, there's a decent amount of stuff there, but, like,
oh no,
what is it? Where did it come from? Why do we care? How does it affect us? How does it affect anything else? What is it doing? Like, there's a lot that is definitive about, like, the Queen, had this liaison with angels and it caused this civil war in Lothric, and then cool, all right.
You don't meet too many people who have opinions about angels, is maybe a succinct way to put it.
I think you run into 2 knights who seem to be angels, and then that's it. You're done. Like, that storyline, that's all that it had. It's just it says a lot of things, certainly, but then it doesn't connect too much. It doesn't leave room for interpretation where you can be like, oh, and that's why Lothric, your Prince Lothric decided, not to kindle the fire. Like, it doesn't. There's no room for you to go, aha, even if you're wrong, or even if somebody else comes and says, no, it's this way. Like, there's kind of none of that to do in this game, and the DLCs really exemplify it because, as much as the main game is about, like, this world and what has become of all these things that we recognize.
Heal up, Schwank.
Different.
Can't out.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
The DLCs are all about.
All right. Well, you need to live, so I might just try going. Oh god, that didn't work out, but whatever I can do. You know what?
It is very fun.
I'm gonna throw firebombs out.
You guys do all this while I am 5 seconds behind on the stream.
Oh, don't get hit! Don't get hit!
Firebombs at Slave Knight Gale. He's right there.
Oh, he wants you.
That's okay. He can have me. It's you we need to worry about. Throwing knives. Whatever I got, he just need to get him down.
Cheesing at the end of the world. Don't hit me! Yep. I need to be alive.
Drew's gonna get that Slave Knight down. I've got to give him more time. No, he's so close. If I kill him right now, come on.
Oh my god, that sliver. All right, we got it this time. I'm sorry, Adam. You were saying.
No, that's all right. I was happy to sideline for a minute and watch the outcome unfold. That was.
The problem is we stopped talking about medieval literature.
That is definitely the problem. The thing about medieval literature.
But yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I think the approach to storytelling here is at once much more definitive and much less helpful. For that method that Dark Souls 1 introduced, where you're sort of piecing things together archaeologically. This is you get 10% of 100 things instead of 40 to 60% of 12 things. You get just a very different cross section of information, kind of for my mileage anyway. And then that leaves me sitting there frustrated trying to mash puzzle pieces together, and then the DLCs come along and say, yeah, none of that shit matters, we're going to destroy this world to make a new one, and not even one that you have any particular knowledge of or connection to. Which again is bold, and I applaud it, and it's creative, and I applaud that. But it very much felt like the DLCs were a way of saying, like, why did you ever think any of this mattered?
How does it want you to be invested is, to me, kind of an interesting question. I think we talked a bit last time about metaverse narratives, and I mean this is where I struggled with. It's one of the ways I struggled with Avengers: Infinity War. Sorry to bring it up, dude. I know I'm violating the contract, but
Still have not seen.
Was that a contract?
no, I don't think it was. I was just, I know that we differ on that point. But it's you didn't make me sign in blood that I would never bring it up or whatever. But
I mean, it amuses me.
yeah. We'll just, so, like, for the ending of that movie to work. I mean, you haven't seen it. Everybody dies, basically, or almost everybody dies. So in order for that to work, you have to be, like, emotionally invested in it being sad to watch them die. You have to ignore your extra textual knowledge that they're definitely not dead because there are more movies in the works, including a sequel to the one you're currently watching.
Well, and if you've read comics like I have for years, you know the deal.
Right, but then, like, how
one's dead except Uncle Ben.
How are you supposed to give a shit? like
So, that actually I have an answer for, if not one that works for everybody, certainly. But if you are able to view the events that you're seeing from the perspective of the characters experiencing them, to a greater or lesser degree, then there can be stakes. But you have to care about the characters themselves in order for it to work. And so that's part of why the theme of the nature of cycles does not resonate with me in this game particularly much, is that the cycles were interesting in the previous games for me personally because of their consequences, right? Like, yes, it's cyclical, but that means something, right, to the people in the game world, including your character and the NPCs that you talk to, and it means something to me as a human being to imagine what would it be like,
to be trapped in a cycle. What you're seeing, I survive, but I go on to live a long, miserable life.
Yeah, what would you want to happen if you discovered that you were trapped in this cycle? And can you think of cycles, that are maybe less existential, but that are like this? And you can see, right, here's what the dark is like, here's what the Age of Fire is like, and here's what it's like when it, comes to an end, and here's what it's like when people keep kindling the fire over and over and over again, and here's what it's like when, maybe they've done both innumerable times. Maybe there is just this twilight state that we can eventually come to rest in, which is the Dark Souls 2 kind of Scholar of the First Sin DLC ending that I really appreciated. Like, if you can escape the cycle, would you even recognize what's on the other side of it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that stuff, it was grounded in the experiences that I had playing the game and mechanically reinforced by my dying over and over and over again. And kind of experiencing the cyclical nature of these things. And in this one, I don't really understand what it wants me to think about cycles or why cycles are important, unless it's metatextual, which, it wasn't enough, didn't have enough gas in it for me to get there. But obviously, it was enough gas for a lot of people. But I think I said this before on a previous stream, Dark Souls 2, part of the reason I like it is because I like the gameplay a lot, but a lot of the reason why I like it so much is because one of my, kind of biggest existential fears is dementia, senility, losing my grasp of who I am. It happens a lot in my family, and it's probably going to happen to me one day, and it, is a resonant human thing, and for all that, the NPC stories in these games are not especially deep or like, they don't have a ton of text. They can be very thematically resonant, and Lucatiel,
what happens to Lucatiel? In our current playthrough, I messed up that story, so I'm probably not going to find out.
talking to you on a couple of occasions about being afraid of losing herself, and saying like I would cut you down where you stand if it would help, but it wouldn't. And then finally, when you encounter her at the final time, she can't really remember at first who you are, what her name is, and she manages to be like, no, I am Lucatiel of Mira. Please remember that, I am Lucatiel of Mira because I won't.
Oh, wow.
Like,
She has exactly enough presence of mind to care about that, but know that she can't do it anymore. It's
and that's like very blunt in some ways. In another context, you could even call it maudlin. But for me, that really cut to the quick. And so then there are stakes, right, for figuring out how to get rid of this process, right?
You're bad at this game.
I am. It's true. I'm bad at all games. That's my secret, Cap. Jesus, I'm sorry. I was crying about Lucatiel, so that was Lucatiel's fault.
No, that was totally my fault for bringing Lucatiel into.
No, I hear you though. Because you're saying like the for me, I can't turn off the part of my brain that says, how is this applicable to real life when I'm engaging with a fictional story of some kind? I can't just think, well, this is sad for Captain America, so therefore I can feel sadness. Like I have to give a shit about the thing Captain America gives a shit about. And if that's something like recognizably human, like dementia or betrayal or your new friend not understanding your old friend and the two of them fighting, like Civil War is the best Avengers movie, right? Sure. But if it's just, it is sad when people die and here are some people dying, but don't worry, they're not dead. It's so hollow, right? And I think it also, to the point about this game, it goes against what's interesting about the medium, right? Like what is the MCU? It's this giant interconnected series of movies. So it's it's serialized. And what's interesting about serialization? Well, the thing that happened in the last movie has still happened in the next movie, right? So once things start unhappening, why even bother? Just make a bunch of movies, like just make anthologies with characters you like. Similarly here, the idea is we're like building cycles on cycles on cycles on cycles. Dark Souls 2 is kind of about how weird it is to make a sequel to Dark Souls at all. So like, are we just doing that again? Or are we, going back to the beginning? Are we making Dark Souls 1-2? like what is it we're doing that sort of plays to the medium? And maybe that's a long way of getting back to my question from earlier, which is why are we fighting Gale?
If you have an answer to that, I would be very interested to hear it.
So what I was gonna say way back when is like actually that's one of the things that I don't have an answer to. As far as I know, he wants the Dark Soul, which I guess at this point is a thing. I mean, we had the the Dark Sign, which was the curse of humanity, but it was always a little unclear like what the Dark Soul was, other than a Lord's soul that the furtive pygmy found, and how that translated to his or hers progenitors, we don't know. So yeah, in the case of Gwyn wanting our Dark Soul and what that means, the one weakness to that I would say, especially in these games, is that it does seem to suggest this idea of like the special, which really comes out of nowhere. Like,
because the whole point in Dark Souls 1 is that you're told you're the special to manipulate you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I was always really satisfied with the explanation in Dark Souls 1 that the humanity sprites were the Dark Soul, right? It was this Lord Soul that its main characteristic was not that it burned brightly and, powered the Age of Fire, but that it propagated indefinitely.
Right.
And
just real quick, pragmatic tip, dude. When he does that little charge where he's like mad, it's actually better to just, when you see it coming, just run.
Oh, okay.
Dodging will actually kind of mess you up because it's just kind of more frantic. I mean, you could see the pattern, but it'd be easier to just run.
Yeah, fair enough.
As long as you're running away consistently, he won't catch you.
But yeah, I was always satisfied with that explanation. It certainly isn't the only explanation you could arrive at given the information in Dark Souls 1, much less since then, but I thought that really made a lot of sense. In this encounter, and in the DLCs in this game in particular, though, it seems like what it refers to is, the enjoyment or engagement or dedication it takes maybe to play these games, or just to the games themselves, right? Like he wants your Dark Soul as a pigment to make something entirely new, if you want to take the total metatextual reading.
I mean, he wants our blood for the painting.
Right, which is, he's going to make, there's going to be a whole other world that gets made.
But why it's us specifically, what I was going to say is the best read I could get from that, as far as like looking at, the consistent through lines of theme and narrative, would be that he is a callback to like what you just said. Actually put this in my head. He is the sort of the Frampt or Koth equivalent in this game. Like, we're here because of his machinations, right? Like, he asked us to help the girl in the painted world, and
he's her slave
at the beginning.
Is she whose slave he is? That's a bad sentence, but you know what I'm asking.
But I also couldn't point you to.
I don't like that. I think he is her prisoner with a job. So, sorry, I couldn't resist.
So I always got the feeling that the slave knights, right, were used as this cannon fodder, in some nebulous way, and he is one who has outlived his masters, but has the, sort of curse of the undead and can keep coming back and back, and is helping to forge this new world where, such things will not exist. It will be, what is it, cold, dark, and gentle.
Right.
I never considered that he was Painter Girl's slave.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Those two things are incidental, not.
This is his old title. He's no longer.
Yeah.
Dobby is a free elf.
Wow, that's a whole can of worms, dude.
I think it's important to reclaim it. Because Harry Potter's not going anywhere in the public consciousness. So to just sever it from its garbage creator, and
I was say, speaking of
death of the author. I mean, that's a great example of how you can't do that, though, because there's all kinds of weird crap in those books.
Although
right?
that was my point. That's. I mean, hey man, if you're a Harry Potter fan, no hate your way. If you can figure out a way to disassociate the author from the books, more power to you. Because
Look, I really liked Doug TenNaples' work when I was younger, so I've been through this, right?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Dude, Ian just showed me a video the other day about John Kay, and I had somehow missed all that stuff. That was rough.
You didn't know any of that stuff?
I didn't. No, I had missed it somehow.
Good God, that's dark.
Yeah.
I mean, like Doug TenNaples just an asshole. We're talking about John Krzyzewski. Is that how you say his name? The Ren and Stimpy guy.
Yeah.
Who is an actual factual predator.
Yeah. Like Drake status.
Yeah.
Which I'm gonna keep saying because so many people give Drake a pass. I don't know why it's so confusing to me.
So I know the basics of this. I know about him. Oh God, slide into the DMs of underage women on Twitter. I don't know much.
He's just a
beyond
groomer.
that.
I mean,
okay.
He's a groomer.
Oh God.
And maybe that's why people give him a pass because they're like, well, look, at least he's waiting till they're 18. It's but.
That's a weird reason to give someone a pass.
I mean, especially when you're in the same, generally speaking, you're in the same, art world as like R. Kelly and Chris Brown.
Yeah.
If that's it, like you can wait till they're 18. Like, hey man, I guess you're kind of a saint
in the land of the blind. Yeah.
Chris Brown passes. I got in a shouting match.
Oh no, I mean that's also
insane.
Frustrating.
Whatever.
But my point is.
Yeah.
But that's my point, right? Like, if Chris Brown can pass for whatever insane reason, then, I mean, like, how can you get mad at Drake for, being nice to girls until they're 18, which is way more insidious.
I used to think a thing that was not moral, but was at least, like, grokkable, which was that, like, the degree to which you got a pass had something to do with the value of your work. Right, like Michael Jackson made Thriller, so you can forgive a lot, kind of thing.
Hey man, he made Bad too. Come on.
No, totally.
I'm Dangerous.
No. Look, I love all these albums, and we've talked about this a lot. My point is, like, in the public consciousness, right? Like
right.
That's the first thing they're going to think of. Right?
And I mean, that's for sure my bias.
What the fuck has Chris Brown done? Like, it's
he did
other than be a literal monster of a human being.
Right. Well, and that's the conversation and quotations that I had, which was, being like, no, you don't understand. He's, this monster, and this person was like, oh, I know. I just like the music. I like to dance to it. I was like, Okay, but that doesn't mean you have to defend him.
Right, exactly.
Are unconnected. They are
Right.
completely unconnected.
You can absolutely enjoy art by terrible people. In fact, you know, especially if you're gonna
Most of us do.
well, you have to. I mean,
Even
like,
if we don't know it.
right. Well, there's that for sure. But you know,
You know, perhaps belated, sort of content warning here, but I studied the works of Chaucer for 10, 12 years, semi-professionally, and dude was found guilty of rape. Like,
I did not know that about Chaucer.
I didn't know that either. I was
Most
waiting. I
people
was waiting for you to drop it because I was like, oh man, I never heard this.
Sounds like the
he
Canterbury Tales are canceled.
yeah, he was
Some
was
juicy
actually,
middle English shit right here.
think about
Give me
what
the
that means,
chisme,
though,
man.
Right, in the 1300s, to actually be
Give me thine
convicted.
chisme.
Yeah, I was
Right,
gonna say, yeah, in the 1300s, the bar must have been pretty high.
And so, like, it was also, the legal definition here, that they were working with was a little bit, different, perhaps. But I think it ended up being kind of like a civil suit, not literally, but like the penalties
equivalent, yeah.
were what we would associate with a civil suit, and evidently the family, as far as I can remember, was satisfied with the punishment that was levied, but like nowhere do I think we ever hear about the woman. Like,
We've no reason to believe he made amends in in a non-legal way. Like,
yeah, like there's very, very scanty details. We have the conviction,
right.
and there are people in academia. I mean, hopefully not as many as there used to be. Certainly, not anybody that I learned from, but definitely there are people who are very interested in trying to minimize the degree to which these events in Chaucer's life are talked about or acknowledged, and in some cases even try to mitigate it, be like, oh no, well, it's actually a whole different thing. People do that.
Did you just actually a rape conviction? Like, oh man, I am getting fully stabbed repeatedly.
Chaucer has been dead for almost 700 years, and people will still white knight for him.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. I mean, because to your point also about medieval literature, when we can't,
the canon,
right.
you guys.
When we can't know the author,
No books have been written since the 50s. We can't mess with.
I mean,
this.
they have. They're just all trash.
No.
Genre fiction.
Genre fiction.
Octavia who?
Oh gosh.
What Butler?
I had my students in my honors classes read a short story, a sci-fi short story from Strange Horizons from earlier this year called 68 Hazard Cold. And I should remember the author's name, but I'm blanking on it now. And that's
because you're a bad person.
It's got to be why. Canceled.
But, I specifically said, look, we spend a lot of time reading nonfiction, reading, capital L literature, and, here's something that was actually written, published this year, in American literature that I think we can talk about in the exact same way. So we'll see how that goes on Monday.
That's cool.
That'll be sweet.
That's super cool.
Oh boy.
But yeah, no, I was just gonna say when we don't have information about the, like, if your goal is to only consume works by people who are clean, which I don't think is a good goal, but it's also impossible if your plan is to read anything from earlier in human history, because you can't know, right? Like, who knows what Theodore von Beowulf, what kind of shit he got up to? Like, there's no way to know.
Oh.
Well, and based on the kind of stuff that his OC gets up to,
yeah, right.
nothing too savory, honestly.
Not precisely a model for positive masculinity, that Beowulf cat. Yeah.
But to, I guess, eventually bring it all the way back around, Gale, I see as having this single-minded devotion to the creation of this new painted world, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world inside the world inside the world we're playing.
I mean, hot take. If there's one thing Dark Souls has, it's people with single-minded devotions.
It's very true.
which serve them well and badly. Yeah, that's a through theme.
Do they ever serve them well? I'm not.
Well, in the sense that it's what keeps you from going hollow. If you have a cause, at least in the first game, this is how it works.
Yeah,
they kind of drop that thread,
yeah.
but as soon as Sieg Meyer loses that single-minded
See how
devotion.
hard that is? Do you see why this was such a bad idea from Soft?
As soon as he loses that single-minded devotion, that's when he starts to slip away, right? And his decline is precipitous.
No, that's a good point that I hadn't thought about in a little while. But yeah, I read him as being dedicated to seeing this new painted world within a painted world within a video game world created, successfully, and he needs the dark soul for the pigment. He needs to slay the player and their progenitors.
And make something new. Oh, God damn it. That part is very hard to not read as biographical, right?
Take the blood of the old to forge the new.
Yeah.
Leave it behind. We're gonna burn it. It's gonna all burn as fuel for the new thing, which does tie into the whole kindling cycle and whatnot, but also kind of not, because we've already established that in this world, burning something to consume it does not
destroy it utterly. Yeah. It acts like hellfire in the Christian conception, the modern Christian conception, not like in the Jewish conception, right? Like we have a notion of I say we, right? the Jews, the globalists, excuse me, have this notion of, if your name's not in the book of life, you get cast in the lake of fire. But that's not like eternal torment. It's just like it does to your soul what fire would do to anything. It ain't there no more, right? Yeah. It's more like the Egyptian thing, right? If your heart doesn't balance with the feather of truth, then there's no more you, right? It's not a good outcome, but it's a lot cleaner.
Yeah. Eternity is the reward, not also the punishment.
Right, exactly.
And in this case, it's kind of it just is, right? It's just a new
right, totally.
Eternity is,
right.
That can be horrible.
Right. Yeah, no, and I am interested in fiction that goes into the, just how eternal life would suck for its own reasons, regardless of what it contained. But.
Yeah. Well, and that actually, maybe this is related to the "why are we fighting Gale" question that we have discussed, but I don't know that we found a amazing.
The answer is we don't know really when it comes down to it.
But what are you in Dark Souls 3? Right, you are unkindled ash.
Mm-hmm.
That certainly seems to be undead because you have a dark sign and you can go hollow, but is it a subcategory of undead? Is it a new breed of undead?
Yeah, you have a dark sign when you start the game. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would say because you cannot go hollow in this game without meeting certain specific parameters.
Right. No, hollowing is a different thing in this game, which is another thing that probably wasn't actually just a middle finger to Dark Souls 2, but read that way when I first started playing the game.
Well, to me, it actually fulfills something Aldia says, which is that perhaps being hollow is actually humanity's natural state, and being mortal, but taking on a form where we more resemble the beauty of the gods, was a curse Gwyn put on us.
I liked the Aldia thing. I guess I didn't connect it up when I was trying to read hollowing as like this inky blackness you had to collect.
Mm-hmm. But, right. No, because the goal of the Hollows of Londor is to they would say like bring humanity to a new state, but I think it's at least interesting to think about the idea that maybe they're taking us back to basics.
Yeah.
Well, like, what would it mean in that sense if hollowing has any relationship to what it's meant in previous games? It's this mindless hunger for souls, where you've lost your sense of self, but your body persists in an ever more decrepit state, forever and ever. Like, what would it mean to become hollow?
You gotta run from it, dude.
Yeah.
Hollows. Do hollows eventually grow a personality after they get enough souls? Like, do you become a new self even though you are the same body? Like, I'm not sure what it's trying to imply about hollowing as it is represented in this game.
As a quote unquote physical phenomenon. Sure, yeah. One, it does sort of violate the metaphysics of the first game in a way that I'm not sure it ever resolves, where souls make you alive, but humanity makes you conscious. Mm-hmm. So like, there's a sense in which, if we take that as true, which I guess we don't have to, then a fully hollow society would be operating fully on instinct. It would just be like mushrooms with feet.
Right, well, in which case you couldn't
which exist
right
in Dark Souls.
That's true.
But if that's the case, you couldn't have the Hollows of Londor, right, who are
all the way hollow and totally sentient. Yeah.
Right, and like plotting.
Right. and they don't seem to be a hive mind, right? Because that's the way you could take it. You lose your individual will, but you gain like a group will. I sort of thought that's where they were going with the Hollows of Londor, but that didn't really pay that off.
Yeah, well, and why do they need you in that case? If they're undead and fully hollow, what are you to them as this king or queen of the Hollows?
Yeah, that goes back to Lucio's thing about are you the special? Because it starts playing like you're just a new recruit, but then you become the most important person in the universe for no clear reason.
That's funny because I read that differently. I read that as like you're sort of a pawn, because Yuri explicitly says like, well, we need a lord, and so you need to go find a bride. Like it's more like this is a checklist. Like, well,
sure,
if he'll do the work, then we got our lord here.
You were talking Octavia Butler. It's more just like like Henri is going to be the head of the house, and you're just the lead wife.
Exactly.
Well, and
God.
So I like that read where they're doing a primordial serpent-esque, sort of, manipulation with grandiose sounding titles, but why? What is it? What necessitates that? Why do they need you at all? If the process of becoming the Lord of Hollows is becoming all the way hollow, they seem to already be all the way hollow.
Yeah.
And based on the Londoris that we fight, they're pretty tough. They could probably, grind up a little bit and go fight the Soul of Cinder.
Sure.
Like, I don't, is it something about you being unkindled ash? If so, what does that mean? Why is that special? How is it distinct from undead? Like, it's just
even the fact that they're Lord Seekers is kind of interesting, and maybe it's like a little gesture to like, okay, but are you really going to break the cycle though? Even once the cycle's broken, certain assumptions or cycles might persist because it would be more on theme in a certain sense if they weren't seeking a lord. They were in anarcho-syndicatist collective. Because you don't vote for.
I just read it as like meaningless ritual. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was, there doesn't need to be a reason why something, ritual has a particular effect. It just, it begs questions that it doesn't seem to maybe be aware that it's asking.
Yeah. I can't remember if I screwed up Henri's quest line or if we just hit a little bug this playthrough, but we didn't get to see the weird-ass wedding scene on the stream.
It was a bug, I believe.
That's the peak of my interest in the storytelling in this game, arguably, right, is the wedding scene with Henri and me being like, oh, that's what's going on here,
Yeah.
It kind of comes to not a lot,
consequences, right? Yeah, I want Dark Souls honeymooners with you and Henri. Like, what's your married life like together? What does marriage even mean, right? Like, it doesn't even really go there. Oop.
Right. Well, or like, why did we call this like ritualistic head stabbing and hollow absorption ceremony a wedding?
Mm-hmm.
Why did it need to take place?
Why does it take place in Gwendolyn's chamber? That's weird and on the nose.
Toward what end I'll give them, right? You the point is that you're doing this without really knowing what their ultimate goal is, and you're having to make the choice without any information, and then you find out at the end, which is a recurring thing.
Watch the lightning.
It just at the end. As
What am I trapped on?
Oh, you got into a corner.
The Hollows ending, as I recall it, is just cool. Now you're the Lord of Hollows, and we're gonna have an Age of Humanity. And I'm like, oh yeah, that again.
Groovy.
It's neat, but there's not enough connecting that to what I did, I guess.
Sure. And what makes it that different from the Primordial Serpents saying, sick job, bro, if you do
the same, right? Like, oh, is this Kath's Age of Dark again? Did we just, hit another reset on the cycle? It's presented as something new, but... Yeah.
I would say Sekiro does a much better breaking the cycle ending. If you, are Sekiro spoilers acceptable?
Dark Souls 3 was too hard for me. I'm
okay.
never going to be able to break Sekiro.
Fair enough. So
I would argue that Sekiro is actually easier though, because it's a very consistent system. You have the same tools, and so
sure, but what makes Dark Souls 3 hard for me is multi-phase boss fights, enemies with a lot of health and very aggressive AI. 360 hits.
Oh, but that's my point. So
Since it's
Sekiro
time.
actually rewards aggression on your part too.
Yeah, I am most
I mean, I'm just
successful
putting it
at
out there, man.
games
Like,
when I am most.
if you watch some videos with the strats, like it works for everybody. It's not about like needing a specific build. It's like
Yeah,
this is
no,
what you can just do.
build is not what I'm actually talking about. It's like me saying that, oh, that's a platformer, I'll never finish it. It's games I'm not
Okay.
good at. Sorry for not being clear.
No. I understand what you're saying.
I
Yeah.
would like to spend some time with Sekiro, even if I won't beat it. It's gonna have to be pretty cheap before I get my hands on it. And
Sure.
I don't expect to see the end of it. And maybe I will, but you know, I've already
Oh my
watched it.
god.
I'll be curious to see if you enjoy it from a mechanic standpoint, though, because like.
Me too.
Because you're saying that these kinds of games are hard for you, but I'm wondering if once because things start to really come together in that game. I will say the longer you play it.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm using the information that I have from what I know of the games and from what I've heard from other people that, you know, I struggled with Dark Souls 1 and eventually, you know, kind of found my groove and got through it, if not with particularly skilled play. I struggled with Dark Souls 2, eventually found my groove, got through it, if not with particularly skilled play. Struggled with Dark Souls 3, continued to struggle with Dark Souls 3, struggled with Dark Souls 3 until I eventually uninstalled it. And, you know, the trends that Sekiro keeps up in terms of design, I think, have been going through the Soulsborne games, you know, even though there is not, like, build and, like, quote-unquote class stuff going on in Sekiro so much. Everything I have seen from it, it is, you know, very timing-based, quick.
Yeah,
know,
it's definitely a rhythm
high
game.
stakes combat, and that I need a chance to fail. You know, like if I can't mess up a few times,
I mean, that's the thing. I don't know if you know about the mechanics, but like, yeah, you actually have lots of opportunities to mess up.
You can straight up die and the fight's not over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were the only person I have heard say that. I know about the resurrection thing, but like, you know, if I was fighting Owl, you know, and went to resurrect, like, you know,
It doesn't help you that much.
stage 2, like, cool.
Owl Father is legitimately like that's just a really hard fight, and there's no mitigating it, right? Like it's just very hard.
And again, I may one day get there and be like, oh, this actually, I did click with it, in which case I will be thrilled. But I know that day is not going to be for a long time.
Sure. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so I mean, I don't need to spoil all 4 endings or anything, but but basically, you have a task and you can complete it, or you can complete it with more context. Like, you know, it's like you sacrifice yourself, you sacrifice somebody else, you attain unlimited power, or there's, if you do the ending that does not require you to fight Owl Father, does not require the most fighting, but does require the most fucking around, the most talking to people and discovering stuff, then you leave. You go to the West with this character, the Divine Child, to set things right with the Divine Dragon, and like something totally new and unknowable begins. Right. That's a cool breaking the cycle ending. And it's, you know, it's that classic thing where we don't even know what the West is, right? Is that India? Is that America? Is there a cowboy sequel? We don't know. Like,
I mean, it takes place in Japan, so.
Well, like in Journey to the West is India, right? So like that's usually what's being invoked.
That's what I was gonna say. I just took it to mean like, you know, India. There's a lot of Buddhist stuff going on in Sekiro, so.
Lots. That's the other interesting thing about it is, yeah, it's all of Miyazaki's preoccupations about corrupt religious officials, but with monks. And the imagery is pretty wild, and it's an interesting cultural thing.
Well, and as I understand it, right, the cycle in that, right, is of this, you know, divine dragon blood, you know, inducing existential torpor, but like it's never been an endemic feature of humanity. It is not our doom and tire, right? It's kind of a smaller thing.
It's a local problem. Yeah, most people on the planet, and indeed I think most people in Japan are totally unaware of the problem. It doesn't affect them. Yeah.
Which I think is neat. It is, you know, it limits the analogousness of that cycle to this one, but certainly they are still about.
Yeah. Well, it's smart too, because you were saying like you care when it matters to the characters. So like the hollowing over time mechanic in that is dragon rot, which is like you don't get weaker, your friends get sick if you die a lot.
So the Bonfire Side Chat Boys, you know, when they were talking about Sekiro, I think it was Gary particularly made this thing. He's like, this game, in order to create stakes, relies a lot on you having like a loyalty to like a nation or like a place, and I just can't identify with that. And I was like, oh, well, I can, like that actually.
That's funny because that's a funny take because I took it as less like a nation and more like having a loyalty to people, like
Your
especially
circle,
people
yeah.
who are benevolent towards you, like
the
like most of the people you encounter in that game have like nothing about helping you like helps them, except for like the really like the far ends. They all have their own reasons for, oh Lord, I need to heal. Oh God,
I'm trying to distract him.
Nah, I should be good, but
Whew, yeah, you were close. Tore a close thing. But yeah, no, I that's an interesting read, and I totally see where it comes from, because there are characters in that game that talk a lot about the clan, the nation.
oh no,
Ooh.
oh God.
Well,
Now-
of course, it's local to Ashina, which is like this place, but also this culture. And I think that for me, right, coming from where I do in South Louisiana, it's easy for me to associate the two.
Totally.
More so, perhaps, than I don't know. This is not a slam, but
Great, now I want a po' boy.
me too, always.
I think I'm gonna make jambalaya in the next couple weeks.
Shit,
I have
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Do it.
But it's been too long.
Do it and take pictures.
But the idea that a place and a people and a culture and like the people in the place could kind of have significant overlap in the mind is maybe something that comes from having the feeling of being part of a community that is distinct. That maybe if you, and again I don't know, having never done it, but maybe if you grew up in Cleveland, right?
Sure.
You didn't grow up in Cleveland?
You
should try it.
Grew up in Cleveland. They did not have a lot to. The highest compliment that I heard was, it was a great place to grow up in and then move.
We're not Detroit.
Yeah. That's that old as the hills. It's a good place to be from, right? It's that old as the hills Jim Gaffigan joke of like, like we're from New York and it's the city that never sleeps. We're from Texas. We like things big. We're from Indiana and we're gonna move.
Right. But I can really identify with like, oh yeah, there is something about the people here. Even if I spend a lot of time killing the ones who are terrible,
Right.
There is a community that is
Back up. We're so close.
I know.
An identity that I care about and I want
Yeah.
to save.
Totally.
You
No,
know.
it nails that. It nails that. And in fact, some of the bad guys are specifically your antagonists. It's usually not as simple as bad guys when it's from software, to give them credit. But the interior ministry, right? Like it's literally like what the antagonists want is to form a nation and in some way flatten Ashina culture or absorb it, right? So like you thinking of Ashina as a discrete culture worth protecting or fighting for is totally part of what you're supposed to lock into. But yeah, I wasn't thinking about that too much when I was playing. I was thinking, I really like the blacksmith. I really like Emma. I really like my young ward, my charge, my master. I want to do right by them,
Yeah,
It's funny, we joke a lot about the friends we made along the way, like a throwaway line, but I've been realizing a lot of the games that I've enjoyed in the last decade are actually about like just being a good person and like being good to the people who are good to you and making friendship. Like Hades is ridiculously good. I am loving that game.
Since release, Joanne started playing it, and we had to get another install going on the other computers because it's very, very good. But that's also the Persona games,
Yeah. Your power literally comes from the power of friendship.
Right, yeah, and there's a way to do that I like. I use it as a cheesy line because usually when it says, was the friends we made along the way, it's because they have to say it. You don't already feel it.
Right,
It's
right.
a sloppiness of execution, not a badness of theme. But
By the way, did we miss this? There's a Barry Jones Spotswood
Oh, hey, that would
in the chat.
That would be
Good morning.
That would be the very person we were just talking about with the Hades
Aw,
playthrough.
says good morning discourse. Adam is very soft, no aggression.
guilty as charged.
Well, that's interesting. I'm not seeing that in the restream chat, so I must have something wired wrong. Sorry, we were not intentionally ignoring you, Joanne.
But yeah, no, there's definitely like that appeal to community really works on me. It's part of the reason why having a like base building, whether it's the Normandy in Mass Effect or the keep in Neverwinter Nights 2, right?
Oh, Mass Effect.
It works on me bad.
The best thing Mass Effect could have ever done was just like gradually transitioned into a game that just has no ending.
Oh, that's interesting.
Boy, I really disagree.
Because to me, what I liked was just.
Can I really, before you say what you were going to say, I thought what you were going to say was the best thing it could have done is just come out with a game with no combat, which I would have agreed with.
I mean, to me, that's sort of the same thing. It's like, take away the ending, and I don't know, let's say the existential threat is actually like, months away. And so then in that space, it's just about, hanging with your people and forming relationships.
Yeah, I think the stakes are.
I mean, to be clear, I didn't mean literally like no ending. Like there is no. I just meant like eventually the Reapers were. I mean that maybe not even eventually. Maybe as early as the first game, the Reapers were always like the least interesting thing about those games. It was to your point. It was about fortifying relationships and.
As we're talking by the way, are we gonna fight the real last boss?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right.
I mean, I guess full transparency. If anyone watching this who's been sticking with us, feels like this ending. I mean, we just fought Gale for like an hour and a half, so maybe rushed is the wrong word. But there's a lot of games to play, and I think the last several times we did play, we kind of felt like we'd kind of gotten at the heart of why we wanted to do this playthrough again. And especially thank you, Adam, for joining us because it's been super fun having someone join us who has a differing perspective and. Strongly didn't like the game because then we've been able to extrapolate a lot of really cool things about this game, a lot of things that maybe missed the mark. But I think so all told, I was just going to say so I think Drew and I are feeling ready to wrap and because there's lots of other new games, there's old ones we haven't finished. And if the streaming thing is going to be more consistent, we can.
Anybody who stuck with us through this with some of the like weird pixely artifacts in the stream, I am currently building a new rig, so things will get a lot smoother. We've learned a lot about how to do this, and I think we've had fun and talked about good stuff. So if you've been enjoying it, stick around. I know this is always weird because I know more people watch these after the fact. So like I'm not talking to you in real time, which is what streaming is usually about. But hello from the past. Hope things are better where you are.
Here.
Where the hell am I going?
Flameless Shrine.
Okay. Which is in which tab? Let's see here.
You just passed it.
Did I?
Yeah.
There are a lot of goddamn bonfires in this game.
Oh yeah. It's like the fourth to the last one.
Fourth to the last. Oh, Flameless Shrine. Gotcha.
Yeah.
The dogs have decided that it is wrestle time.
Good morning, Wrestle Dogs. Okay. We're here.
Yeah, this playthrough has been very cathartic for me. I think I'm actually ready to uninstall this game.
Wow, man. So Adam won.
That's the thing. I know. I hear Adam chuckling, and it's not because like I don't enjoy it anymore. It's just like I've played it so much that I think it's like I really feel ready for a break. Now, to be clear, if a friend of mine was like, "Hey, man, I got Dark Souls 3 on discount on PC," I would already be hitting the install button again. But I just mean like in terms of like cleaning up, especially because God, new games are so big. Mm-hmm. This game has just been on my hard drive forever, and I've just always been like, well, why would I uninstall it? Because I'm always gonna play it. I think like for the first time, I'm like, yeah, this was a really fun playthrough because we got to really like explore what this game is, and I think I'm ready to put it down for a while.
Coming into the kiln of the first flame here is an interesting little emblematic thing for Dark Souls 3 because it was a revelation in Dark Souls 1, and that was the last time we had that. Right, like you walk in, you're like, "What is behind this Lord Vessel door? What is behind this?"
It's been teased so long, yeah.
Lights, oh, this is where it happened, right? This is it. This is the spot of the creation of the Age of Fire, and it's what am I gonna find here? And then we come back here, and you're like, "Oh shit, it's the kiln of the first flame," right? Like, it's just a necessarily very different feeling that going the other way. 3, 2, 2 to 1. Man, how would that change?
Yeah. Because the visual is very different. But you're right. I mean, like here it is basically I don't want to say it's just a reference. Like there's a little bit more going on than that, but that is the main feeling it wants from you. You know, is like, oh, we've come full circle. Whereas, yeah, if your ending is the version of the Kiln of the First Flame where you fight Gwyn with the sad music, that's a better ending, not just to Dark Souls 1, but to the series.
Although I will say, having started here, played Dark Souls 1, and then now we're about to do this again.
This does feel cool. I'm
100% gonna get the feels when Phase 2 kicks in and I hear those piano notes.
Yeah. Look, we can disagree on a lot, but we can agree that leitmotif rules and should be used more.
Yeah, thank you, Motoi Sakuraba. Is that how you pronounce his name? I can't remember.
I think so.
I know this will surprise everyone, but I don't speak Japanese.
You what?
Really?
I'm sorry. Please don't kick me off the stream. We're so close.
I kind of just meant more like, is that actually his name? I know it's Motoi, but I just couldn't remember if it's Sakuraba or something else.
Well,
I guess underrated is the wrong word. I feel like as far as like game composers go, I don't hear him talked about much, but I really like him. The Baten Kaidos OST is a jam. That was like my first introduction to him.
Oh, that is a great jam.
Yeah, I did not know they shared a composer. That is interesting.
Baten Kaidos does not get enough love. He wrote
Gwyn's theme, which is like arguably one of the best themes in games. Like it's
real good.
So, I mean, this word gets thrown around a lot, but look, it's so subversive. You come to the last boss and it's just a piano.
No, it's actually subversive. It's not the way people usually mean that word. And I will say, okay, so like this boss, the fact that you realize it's doing all of the PvP stuff or a version thereof, that's pretty clever. You know, the real Dark Souls was the friends we made, or more to the point, the enemies we made, the frenemies we made along the way.
It's clever. It is narratively very unsatisfying to me. Like, why this is here exactly, and
the soul of Cinder.
Well, it is a little bit like when Time's Person of the Year was you, and there was a reflective thing on the magazine cover. It's like, well, I don't care about me. I read this magazine to learn about literally everything in the world but me.
Yeah,
I mean, I take it as like, oh god, look out, he's gonna
can do a thing.
Yes. I read it. Oh Lord. Oh god, yes. Sorry. No, everyone shut up for a minute. Ah, the chorals.
That is real good.
The chorals and the pianos.
So the real problem is that I can't have this going where I can hear it.
Oh no.
There's a real bad on a delay, so
well,
I'm
then
missing out.
Get out your kazoo and play Gwyn's theme. I will say, so I mean, like we have not, you know, we were speaking about Miyazaki, and we were comparing him to Hayao Miyazaki, who I think is fair to say is a bit of a tyrant on his projects, and I think the projects generally come out better as a result, but it's a fact of life. Hidetaka Miyazaki, I think, sometimes has a bit of a lighter touch than that, although he is definitely an auteur. I think he values collaboration, right? Said, for example, in an interview that one of the reasons they wanted Activision to publish Sekiro was because the From guys really wanted to learn how to make a tutorial. So, you know, it's definitely open to the idea that other people have stuff to contribute, and, you know, it helms most of the projects, but you know, I think there's other people's voices in here. All that to say, famously, he took over Demon Souls when it was already midstream. Demon Souls was also a very troubled project. It was a much more straight-ahead action RPG, and his, you know, he showed up as a dirty pervert and was like, well, what if masochism, and you know, made it what it became, and then the series kicked off. All that to say, the Demon Souls remake is going to be very interesting to see that, like, most messy of the games with a modern design sensibility. But but I am really excited to hear basically this choir sing those themes, because the Demon Souls OST, real MIDI, maximum MIDI.
I have an appreciation for that, honestly. But I am interested to see kind of what happens. Like, does it become an anonymous, you know, kind of Dark Souls-ass soundtrack? You know,
they both work. I love how flourished this Gwyn's theme is. I also love putting on Gwyn's theme, the original, and like hearing how like lo-fi it is. Like, it's probably like God, what were the divisions back in the day? 160 divided into, it's probably like 80 hertz or something like that.
Sure. When
Yeah,
it's
and
like
whether-
you wouldn't want the Princess Bride to not have the MIDI. You know what I mean? Like it's very core to the charm of what some things do.
right, or like the matte backdrops.
Totally.
And Demon Souls is such a weird lurching monstrosity anyway, right? That like having this kind of good job.
Why, thank you.
God, that dark sign in the sky is really cool.
Yeah.
I wish that it told me something other than isn't this cool?
All right, now let's see what ending Drew is gonna pick.
The only thing that I could, well, let's see. We can't do the Hollows of Londor ending, because we didn't do the homework.
Did you ever get the Firekeeper's Eyes? That's something you would have had to do on your own.
Ooh, I didn't do that. Could I run out and do that right now?
You could.
How much stuff would I need to do?
I think it's just at the top of the tower. So as long as you didn't,
I mean, how close are you to needing to wrap?
Oh, I'm okay for now.
Let's go do that. You direct me, and we'll talk while we do.
I mean, I can't help you.
No. But I mean, just tell me where to go.
Oh, right. I am gonna close my game.
Okay.
That way I can help you with like
Close it, uninstall it, scrub the hard drive.
She has very strong opinions about Souls games.
Oh yeah.
Oh, who? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Violet, my dog, just decided to warble in the background for no apparently good reason.
She really wants us to link the first flame, but I'm sorry, Violet.
He is a Gwyn partisan.
Actually, you know what you should do? Go back to the Firelink Shrine and just talk to the Firekeeper and see what your options are.
Okay.
Because there's the Firekeeper's Eyes, and there's one other thing I can't remember right now.
Well, you can just like kill the Firekeeper moments before the game ends, right?
Yes.
Or you can, if you've done the homework, you can do the Hollows of Londor ending, or you can just link the flame.
Because I think she needs 2 things for you to do her thing. Let's see what we got. And I'm a little behind, so if you're talking to her, just wait a second so I can see the menu.
I mean, all I got is level up, talk, and leave, so I may have done none of it.
So the Firekeeper Eyes are in the Untended Graves.
Okay.
So that's a little... I mean, yeah, I guess you could run past the Black Knights.
Here, let's just spend these souls real quick, just in case the obvious happens.
Oh, you're going to spend souls? That's why I was asking if you were invested in
I mean, I'm not, but I've got them, so what am I going to not use them? 42 is a nice number to end on. Hitchhiker's Guide and all that. Did we lose you, Adam, or are you still here?
Right?
Alright, cool.
We'll try not to interfere with the logistics.
No, it's all good. So Untended Graves.
And that should be in your main selection.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it is the Untended Graves area, but the bonfire would be Champion Gunder.
Oh, okay.
That'll be closer.
Champion Gunder. So again, Champion Gunder is an alternate version of the Edex Gunder, or is it just like there are second acts in Londorian Lives?
I always took it as a like back in his heyday.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Who he was.
So it's again the convoluted time thing. So
Oh, the tower, the left-hand tower.
no, go back.
Okay. I'm just gonna stand by the bonfire, and then you tell me what to do.
Yeah, go straight. You need to go to the oh wait, maybe when I said go back, I see. You want to go towards Firelink Shrine.
Okay.
That delay will get you.
Yeah, right.
We could I could probably broadcast this, especially once we got the new rig. I could show this to you guys on Discord, so you don't have that delay to worry about.
Yeah, so as far as I understand it, it's the convoluted time thing. Gundir's just sort of drew the short end of the stick. In one time, he arrived too late and there was no bonfire. So like this is what he came upon, is just a world without fire. And then the other, when we meet him, he was just there to test the next champion. I think that's what I remember.
Gotcha.
Run past him. You don't need to fight him.
Yeah, I do.
Wow, carrying and everything.
Even now, at the
This game
end.
got flexed.
I've been playing so badly today. I need this. Don't take this from me.
I mean, you did eventually beat Gale, so
It's true.
floor to how badly you can really have been playing.
Well, there's a floor to how badly we could have been playing.
I'm gonna say that there is a badly enough that you could have been playing,
Sure.
namely about as badly as I probably would have been, where it wouldn't have mattered that you had a friend because your friend doesn't get to stick around when you die.
Yeah, true enough. Okay, so this gate doesn't open. I went the wrong way. Where should I be going?
It's not. Wait, the gate opening? Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Okay. Oh Lord.
This is
When
the tower
when I
with
tell
all
you I
the-
don't remember this, I mean I don't remember anything about this.
Okay.
It's by the Tree of Giants, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Oh boy.
Some dog wrestling.
Out of control.
It's inside.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I just
Did you ever get Irina of Karam?
She is which one? She is the
Blind.
yes, I do have her.
Where she is inside the inside Firelink.
Okay. No, yeah, I mean I think you were thinking I half remember this. I have no memory of this.
My dog. So the temperature here dipped. It got cold, which is for me below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And my dogs seem to feel the same because they spent most of the last 24 hours just curled up on the softest thing they could find.
No.
And staying warm.
Aw.
But the flip side of that is that now that it is above 60 degrees again today, if only barely, they have plenty of energy.
Illusory wall.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay. There's the delay, so I just couldn't.
Yeah.
So those are the eyes of the Firekeeper.
Adam. Aw.
Oh, and then you need the Firekeeper's soul. That's at the top of the regular Firelink shrine.
Oh, okay. Oh, I can't warp from here, but I can bone.
Yeah, you can.
The bone hell.
Humpty bump. Bone dethrone.
One of my favorite things about Japanese game development is the use of puns for items that return you to a safe place.
Yes.
Go Hoem in Shin Megami Tensei, the Mr. Gensei exit in Disgaea, which took me 3 games to get the pun on, to my everlasting shame. And then the Homeward Bone.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter what kind of game you're making, just give it a punny escape item. Cross-linguistic pun, I guess.
Yes, always. Okay, where am I? I'm sorry to be a broken record, but where the hell am I going?
The top of Firelink Shrine. Do you remember that area you go off and you had to buy that key?
Yes. So that is more kind of where I was in the other world, right? Or no, still on the other side.
Yeah. So like, yeah,
Okay,
go up
yeah.
there, keep going. It's like past the seat of the giant tree.
Yes. Yes.
Unlock that door.
Like I said, stop telling me because I already know.
Please shut up and stop answering the question I asked.
How dare you assume that just because I asked a question, I didn't know the answer to it. Yeah, that Seat of the Tree of Giants is definitely a necessity for your ascension. Or
It's funny, if you never did this, I wonder if Patches is going to show up. Because
that would actually be very funny for Patches to be like the last encounter that you had in the game.
The true. It would make more sense than Gale.
Yeah, it's actually really. I kind of thought that was where they were going with Lap, but I'm not sorry that it wasn't necessarily. But
Yeah. I for sure they kind of fake you out in Bloodborne because Patches shows up in spider form and then you fight the big spider boss, the Amygdala. So for a split second, I thought it was going to look at me and just be Patches.
It's funny you said the Amygdala. I was thinking of Rom.
Oh, funny. Yeah. Well, Rom is. They say he's a spider, but he's not especially spidery.
yeah,
Definitely vacuous.
she's the vacuous spider in quotation marks.
Right. It's a nickname. You wouldn't get it. You had to be there.
The Bergenworth spider was actually what she was known as before she became whatever the hell she is. That weird little like mirror dimension.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is Patches. The real final boss.
The real Dark Souls begins here.
You might be a tad too late, Patches.
I like this. Like, I have to get around this guy's grift before I can go, like, determine the fate of the world. I just killed the soul of Cinder.
But I still have to.
The actual solution to this is Silver Cat Ring.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
don't fall too far.
Yeah, no, I killed the soul of Cinder, but I still have to deal with this chuckle fuck.
Right. This is the best ending that this playthrough could have had, actually.
I'm pretty happy about it. Especially because if I do end up streaming the Demon Souls remake at all, we'll see our buddy Patches again. Ooh. Nope.
All right, let's see. Did he fudge it?
He fudged it.
He did.
Oh no.
You can go back and get those souls, but you don't need to.
I don't care. It's fine. So now what do? Do I talk to the Firekeeper here? Is that what's up?
Yes. Yeah, you talk to the Firekeeper.
Yeah. Okay.
You have an option to give her both.
Okay. Take the eyes. Take my eyes, but not the shirt.
And it's funny because giving her both doesn't even lock you in. You could still just
You can still link the fire anyway.
yourself, but it's just kind of more interesting to see her decide to help you out.
It's very funny to not hear this and just see, like, I know what she sounds like, but to just have the words coming up at the bottom of the screen without a voice, like, I have to concentrate on how she says it, and if I don't, it becomes very matter of fact and therefore funny.
Forgive me, fifth. No, you mean it's like it's flatter than the real thing. Is how you're hearing it in your head.
Eyes? Huh.
All right, these eyes.
Bring me eyes all the time.
Mayst thou thy peace discover?
It works a little bit less with the early modern pronouns.
Once they start doing the mayest and shit, yeah.
But, yeah. Are these eyes? Those look great in my seafood gumbo. So, I forget exactly who, but someone in my wife's family used to tell her that the okra seeds in the seafood gumbo were crab eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Can't unsee that now.
I mean, that just sounds delicious.
Yeah, I mean, the eyes are the most flavorful part of the crab.
Have I been fucking up? Is this true?
I've never eaten crab eyes.
I mean, like, I'm just trying to think of like how you would even cook a crab and like make the eyes stay, like be preserved. Like, yeah.
No, I think they are relatively fragile, as are eyes throughout the animal kingdom.
Yeah. All right, so we're summoning the Firekeeper. I know I did have this moment of like, how many crabs have I eaten in my life and not enjoyed this delicacy? And I was like, I think he's joking, but I mean, if anybody would know, Adam would know.
That's not true. I've had some crab, but I'm not from Maryland.
True enough. True enough. If Davis was here, I tell you what.
Well, the other thing is that, seafood gumbo was a novelty for me when I got to college. I always had game, duck and sausage. Cajun, not them city folks.
Sure.
As it happens, I really like both. But
Isn't there that great Anthony Bourdain thing where he like did like a New Orleans episode and did like none of the like, the Paul K stuff you would expect? It was all like just chipped beef and like people were so mad at him, but he was like, no, fuck you. Like,
yeah, that would be something I would watch. I have seen precious little of Anthony Bourdain's television career.
it holds up, and he just drops these gems every so often. Once you go to Cambodia, you'll never stop wanting to beat Henry Kissinger to death.
That's really good.
So this sort of quiet personal ending kind of rules.
No, I like this one. Yeah, I like her last line too.
And there was never any more Dark Souls. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. And, you know, probably part of the reason why I like it is because it is very much the, it is very much still the, you know, maybe the almost out is its final, you know, it's its natural state thing from Dark Souls 2 that I keeps coming back to when I think about the series.
I might have to do a singular playthrough of Dark Souls 2 to get like the gist. I mean, not like we don't rush it exactly, but it's definitely more like hangout time because we play that one with a buddy who we don't get to see very often.
Yeah.
So when we play, I'm not exactly focused on like everything happening.
Yeah, and that's gonna be another thing is I barely ever engage with multiplayer voluntarily in these games. You know, one of the things that's valuable about them to me is the, you know, sort of solitude. Now, that is eliding the fact that Drew's cooperation and help with some of the early game in Dark Souls 1 is what got the ball rolling. You know, made it accessible to me.
Hello.
So I'm glad it's there, and I am not above summoning when I need it. And PvP can be fun, but otherwise I do it just kind of solo, and it makes for a very long, very immersive experience. For me.
I mean, we've played these games through together, like pretty much consistently. But I don't want to say there's like a wrong way to play or a right way to play. But I think that, to your point, I think that the intention of the co-op is not so much to be a constant, although we make it that way, but more to be like for what you just said. It's there to like help you if you need help.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there are people who, there are people who, like us, who enjoy, you know, the co-op thing all the way through. But I don't really get a read on these games except to say that I've talked to several people who agree with you that they like playing through it alone and kind of only do the co-op as needed. So I kind of feel like from that, I extrapolate a little bit that seems like that was sort of the intention. It definitely seems like the kind of game that could have been built to be a standalone, and that's, I mean, what Sekiro is. But I think acknowledging the fact that, especially early on, where it's like they're trying this idea of like, you know, varying levels of difficulty, they needed to have some kind of, you know, something in place as a just in case.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty clear that initially they wanted it to be like the co-op was supposed to be "Thank you, mysterious stranger." Like it was supposed to be a little bit. I mean, to the point that if you want to play the Dark Souls 1 the way we play these games, which is like to co-op as much of it as possible and you know, grumble and rush through when there's a solo level.
It requires a lot, yeah.
You need a mod, you know, to do it in the original release on PC. With remastered, you don't have to mess with that stuff. But gradually, the games have sort of made more affordances for people who want to play the way we play. You know, the password system in Bloodborne, which this game has, and the Dark Souls remake has as well. And I presume the Demon Souls remake will have, though we don't know for sure. That makes it way easier. Because even just playing through Dark Souls 2 again and like, you know, put on your ring and make sure we're all worshiping the same god. Okay, now take it off so we can maybe get an NPC. Like it's, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot of rigmarole.
I actually really appreciated the NPC summons. I think a lot of those were scholarly first sin things.
Mm-hmm. And some of them are real weird.
Yeah, but like that, they were weird and memorable. Like I couldn't rattle off a list of them, right? But you know, if I used one. And then I saw them again. I was like, "Oh, hey, you again!" Like it didn't add a character, but it did sort of add a sense to the world.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Like there being these, you know, other adventurers sort of like intersecting your adventure. Over
shit! That's that guy that uses two shields.
Yeah.
Johnny Two Shields, beloved character.
A fisticuffs lady, I think, if my memory serves, that like shows up at the end of Crown of the Sunken King, and I'm just like, "You're gonna punch this dragon, really?" For having that.
Oh, we got her. Yeah, we just did the Slumbering Dragon, and yeah, that was
Good goddamn fight. I love that.
it's a good fight. It's a good fight. And yeah, that's quite a flex to show up to a dragon fight with a Caestus or whatever.
Yeah. Just let me get my brass knuckles on.
Just a mustachioed pugilist going into a dragon's den, yeah.
It's like, if it was a flesh and blood dragon, that would even have been a flex, but it's a dragon made out of stone and full of poison. Like, what are you doing? This is an elaborate suicide attempt. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, she died the way she lived.
Punching a stone dragon.
Over and over and over again.
So I mean, yeah, that to say, I think for future streams, Luce and I are thinking once the Spelunky 2 cross-platform online co-op goes live, we'll do a bit of that. I don't know what else we're gonna do. The world's our oyster.
I mean, we don't need to stream it, but I would like to at some point finish Youngblood.
Oh yeah, the Wolfenstein co-op game. We were having a blast with that. Yeah. That's one of those games we really like that everyone hates. Yeah.
We might have started streaming it when we were sort of dipping our toes.
I think that was our very first streaming attempt, and I didn't know what the Sam heck I was doing, so that might be lost to time. But we could start over or whatever, because that is a fun game.
Yeah, and I feel like there was something else.
Well, Adam and I need to stream more Crusader Kings 3. That's something that'll definitely happen.
Thank you for reminding me. I need to go back and watch those.
They're fun. I mean, the first one is very much me fumbling through learning the game.
But they're just so wacky. Like I got, I was, what was that game that me and Ian were playing very briefly? The where you literally type in what you're doing and then you get the response. But it was a website based.
You're thinking about AI Dungeon?
Yeah, AI Dungeon. I get very strong AI Dungeon vibes listening to you like explain what was happening in your world.
There is a sense of that or like Dwarf Fortress, where when you describe what happened, it's like you almost can't imagine a game could contain that much craziness. It does make sense while you're playing. Like it's all pretty systematized, but yeah, crazy shit happens in Crusader Kings.
Yeah, like your wife that got kidnapped gave birth in prison, I think.
Gave birth in prison, was surprisingly chill about the whole thing.
Yeah.
I in a single player game had a king who was like really pious, and his wife was like just like stepping out on him left and right, and like just had this collection of vices that like everybody was kind of aware of, but he really really loved her. They were like constantly getting events about like how lovey-dovey they were, and so he was the king where I finally got enough piety to form my own heretical branch of Christianity that I could be the Pope of.
This sounds a lot like my marriage, actually.
and then I.
So I'm invested, is my point. It relates to my life.
No, it's very relatable content. Yeah.
So when he got to make his own new religion, I decided he would make his dearly departed wife's. She had died recently. He would make his dearly departed wife's vices the virtues of this branch of Christianity.
Perfect.
And he named it after her.
That's
so now like half of Europe is Utist Christian, and adultery is no longer a crime.
This sounds great.
It's fun. It's really fun.
I wish you'd recorded that one.
It's it's ongoing. The game is actually slowing down because having so many of the NPCs be able to just sleep with whoever they want and have all their children legitimized has led to so many more children. The number of in Europe is about at what my RAM can handle.
I hit a micro version of that even just with my just the fact that I could quasi legitimize or even fully legitimize my concubine's children in my playthrough. So I just like the proliferation of small units of land were part of why I lost a fair bit when my first dude died. Yeah, because that, I mean, dude, Luce, for your head, a big part of the early game, at least the way we're playing, if you start the timeline early, is like establishing that kingdoms are even a thing, like strong tribal law and then something beyond that. So if you don't sort of consolidate territory, then when like the game's not over when your person dies, right? Like you kind of jump from person to person, but you could lose a bunch of territory because that person's direct heir doesn't inherit everything. So there's this interesting push and pull.
Yeah. And this is all like programmed in there. That's what amazes me. It's like it's just all of these possibilities.
It's all pretty explained too. I know this is not a Crusader Kings 3 stream.
I mean,
but
maybe it's about to be.
It's been a minute since I've played either our multiplayer one or my single player one, so I'm definitely itching.
Have you? So you guys haven't played probably since the last time.
We've done 2 sessions.
Like,
So if you
okay, because I was thinking, I know for sure that. I mean, obviously, I'm subscribed to eTow, so but I don't remember getting a notification on YouTube or Twitch in a while. So
It's been a minute, a couple weeks. I
okay,
think.
that is something else. I mean, noble viewer, esteemed collaborators, we should get more regular, because the time we started getting more live viewers was when we were, imagine that, when we were like on a schedule, So
yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off though, Adam. But if we're wrapping, then
I think we're wrapping. Do we have any other final thoughts?
Thanks for having me on a few times. It's been great.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like, thank you for joining us, man. It's been awesome getting your input and your perspective.
Yeah, and it's been awesome being able to see the game from a different angle than just inside my own head.
I mean, that's hopefully always the perspective we're all getting, right? Most things in our lives.
Yeah.
one would hope, yeah.
All right, we signing off.
I think we are. Sorry, I had to run across the room to avoid way more dog noise. Well, I think since this is the end of this playthrough, a very special thank you for everybody who joined us, and I think maybe we want to get a maniacal laugh from everybody. Probably not simultaneously, but
That would be interesting.
Adam, you want to go first?
Well, sure. Thank you for having me, dearies.
Perfect and wonderful, as a wise man once said, Luce.
Well, I reckon at the end of things we've discovered that it's quite a good game. Though I suppose it matters on your perspective and what you're coming into it with. Not that I gave a tuss about any of that.
Thus we found ourselves fighting Slave Knight Gale for hours on end, without really knowing why.